All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. And today we are talking about listening. Now, listening is not inherently a strength of us men. It is just not. Like, I love y'all, but listening is not something we do well. And I can tell you this because most men out there, when they listen to other men, they want to solve problems. When most men out there are talking with other men, they want to be judgmental. They want to interject their experience. They want to one up. They want to do all these things that have nothing to do with the other person. And listening has everything to do with the other person. So this is why it's incredibly important, because let's raise our hands, show of hands here. I can't see any motherfuckers, but show of hands who's in a relationship. Listening is going to be your key tool. Listening is incredibly powerful for so many different reasons, but the first one, it is important because the fact that you allow people to feel heard. When people feel heard, they feel connected. When people feel heard, they feel less emotionally angry. They feel less emotionally tied because they're able to have that release for themselves. So it allows them to push those emotions through and expand on themselves and come to a more tranquil state. Now, we can provide that for people if we learn to listen, but listening is an art, guys. It is something that we have to constantly work on. I should say it's a tradecraft more. It's not really an art. Listening takes work, and we need to constantly focus on this because we aren't the ones that inherently have this great ability to listen. Now, something I've done in my life is try to listen a lot more. I was really good at it for a period of my life. I was really bad at it for a period of my life, and now I'm getting better at it again. And because of the fact that we have, this confidence in ourselves sometimes, or even in certain subjects in which we always feel like someone needs to know that. We always feel like we need to interject. We also, as men, want our solution-based, and that's fine. It's not a judgment. I love solution-based because typically I want to talk out solutions, but our counterparts don't necessarily always want that. And more importantly, our counterparts typically don't want that at all, which is why we all get fucking yelled at for it. So let's be honest about it. We got to start listening. We got to listen better and use the key components to listening. And the first thing is, it's not about you. It's not about you. Shut the fuck up. It's about them. It is always about them. And guess what? You get to benefit from this though. When you listen, you gain experience, right? So that's how it serves us. It serves us because if we can listen to other people, we can connect better with them. We gain experience. We gain knowledge of different situations. And we also gain balance of how other people think. Because we think in a certain way. Guess what? Shocker, I know, right? Not everybody thinks like us. So when we gain the perspective of how other people think, we end up gaining the perspective of different mindsets and being able to relate better to people down the road or relate to this person if they're constantly in our lives. There's a lot of things that are beneficial in how this serves us, but we got to make sure that we understand that it is not about us. It is about them. So first and foremost, start listening more. All right. The second thing is this impacts our own growth. It impacts our own growth because we're experiencing something through somebody else's lens. It allows us to see things differently. So we talk a lot about how the universe will provide for you, but you got to be willing to accept, receive from the universe, and you got to be open to receiving in ways that you don't expect, right? You experience life through a certain lens. You experience life through a certain position. You experience life through a certain mindset. When you learn about somebody else's lens and mindset and position in life, you gain a vast knowledge of experience that widens your view to be able to be open to receiving more from the universe and receiving more in different ways from the universe. That is what becomes incredibly impactful to our growth, because when we are able to do this, then when we start to get into maybe stressful situations, or we start to get into more adverse situations, we are able to have a different lens in which we see the avenues of correction, of change, or solutions, and we are able to receive in that. We're also able to receive in the way that we are able to allow the universe to come in from different ways, because we're like, well, she had a situation that I was listening to, and she saw it this way. I see it this way. Well, maybe there's a third, fourth, and fifth way that I'm not thinking about. So I'm going to be open to receiving whatever it is from the universe that I'm calling in, and allow that to be part of my existence, allow that to be part of my journey. But we don't get there when we're just this myopic view of how solely we have experienced life. So take the benefits of listening and utilize them in your life. Allow them to be something that changes who you are and allows you to grow in different ways. This is how we get experiential learning, is by listening. Not always by putting ourselves in physical situations, but by listening. That is part of the experience, man. So we got to take this seriously and start to implement it in our lives. And then the other thing is, listening will bond us. Listening bonds us, I would say, faster than, pretty much most situations. The only thing I can think of that bonds you faster than listening to somebody is really heightened sense of adrenaline. So a very open emotional state because you're in a heightened level of experience, or trauma, right? This, outside of those two things, this is going to be the fastest way to really bond somebody to someone else. Because when people are heard, they feel emotionally connected. They feel understood. So for all you men out there, listening is going to allow you to have somebody feel understood by you and to feel like you truly see them. Now, why is this important? Well, for all you guys that are with women in your lives, or for all you guys that have little girls, this is going to be incredibly powerful. It'll be very, very powerful for your boys as well. Young boys are going to understand that they want to be heard too. But on the same token, they're going to have a different logical processing system than women do. And women really crave being heard because it allows their emotional state to get out and then to dissolve within them. So then they are able to process and become more tranquil in their own lives and have peace, right? The other thing is with women is safety. Women want safety. They want safety with their boyfriends, with their spouses. They want safety with the men who are in their lives, who they are intimate with. Now, because those men are regularly in their lives, and because they potentially may not have an easy out for those men, like friends can just be like, hey, I'm not really going to call this person anymore. But when they have that ability to really feel heard and seen and understood by the men who are important to them, who they're intimate with, or somebody who's been in their life for maybe their whole existence, like their father, when they have that, they feel much stronger and powerful in themselves, because the fact that they are empowered by us to say, hey, I am not crazy. I am heard. He understands. Right? Just like we don't like feeling like we're fucking crazy, they don't either. But we do that with them in a way by showing them that we're listening. Now, how do we listen better? Like, this is going to be the question of the day. How do we listen better? And the first thing I tell guys, and really the main thing I tell guys, because this is it, ask questions. Ask fucking questions. Now, you can ask, I typically will ask like 3 questions minimum, but you can ask 5. Giving yourself the intention when somebody enters into a conversation with you, and especially when somebody is having a hard time. But when somebody enters a conversation with you, immediately just give yourself the intention of, I'm going to ask 3 questions. Why? Why 3, Johnny? Why can't I just ask 1? You're not going to listen as well if you only ask 1. You're going to listen, ask question, shut up. When I ask 3 questions, I'm listening to an entirety of a conversation or a majority of a conversation. And by the time I ask a 3rd question, I'm actually pretty intrigued. Not only am I intrigued, but this allows this person to show their skill set, to show their knowledge, or to share their feelings, whatever it is the conversation is about. But it allows this person to share all of those things, which then bonds them faster to me emotionally, and then allows us to have a more intimate, better conversation, which now I'm intrigued by, they're intrigued by, they'll reciprocate, they'll ask questions, right? And typically, people that are unemotionally aware will not, but majority of people will inherently after that point be like, oh yeah, I got some questions for you too. I really want to learn more about you. So if we give ourselves the challenge and the intent to ask 3 questions, we give ourselves a leg up and already tuning into listening and tuning out to the other shit in our lives. Because when you're in a conversation, the worst thing you can be is not present. Like it's just fucking terrible, and it's noticeable. It's palatable. Like people know this. So make sure that you're present. And the way to focus on being present is to challenge yourself to ask questions, to be part of the conversation, to allow the person to feel heard, to be inquisitive yourself, to say something that you're interested in. Now, not everybody's doing fucking astronaut shit and is super, super enticing to you. But that human being has other pieces to themselves aside from their jobs. And your questions may actually lead you down that path if you're smart enough to have that awareness and say, well, this is kind of a boring fucking job. There's only so many questions I can ask. Let me ask this person more about themselves. You can start to find out more about them that might intrigue you. So just remember, the questions don't have to just be based around that immediate thing they're talking to. It can be based around that and then converted to something else, which then steers the conversation in a place that maybe makes you a little more happier to be involved or more interested. But at the end of the day, if you're not interested, you're not interested. You don't have to prolong it, but you gave the person the ability to be seen and heard by asking them 3 questions. And that's the other thing. You gave them your time, which is important, and people want that. So if we want to be better listeners, we need to be willing to give people a little bit of our time and then create a better connection with them. And then if it's not for us, it doesn't have to be for us, but we can be respectful, right? We can be men of honor, and we can show them that men have the ability to truly listen and be good communicators. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. Listening is going to be your ticket, especially for my men in relationships. Make sure you are leveraging this. Use that tool. I promise you it'll be a game changer. All right, guys, I'll see y'all next week.